Good evening, everybody. Hell's Unicorn here once again, and I'm just giving my reaction to the events that are now transpiring in Libya, specifically the fact that we just got a UN resolution that basically gives Barack Obama permission to help set up a no-fly zone in Libya. This is tantamount to an act of war. As a matter of fact, both Senator Lugar and Representative Ron Paul have used this language in reference to this. This is the act of a country invading the space of another country and imposing its will upon it by force. Ergo, it is an act of war. All acts of war, from a constitutional standpoint, have to be approved by the Congress. Not much more than 4.5 years ago, I was having my ears talked off by so-called liberals or progressives, and I'm really getting tired of having to use that lingo to describe these people. I prefer to refer to them as Obama zombies, but regardless, they were constantly chewing my ear off, saying, Bush must be impeached. He's not following the Constitution. He's starting wars here and here and here, and there is absolutely no approval from Congress. At least there's no official declaration of war being approved by Congress. It's a bittersweet irony to see literally how both sides in this pointless and utterly misplaced debate have simply switched over and gone to opposite sides of the table and have sat down and made themselves comfortable, as if this is the way that rational human beings handle these things. I think rational human beings is sort of a kind of a contradiction in terms when you look at the way that people conduct themselves, particularly when it comes to politics. But this really just boggles my mind. I mean, am I one of a select few of maybe 3,000 people that actually notices this stuff, notices how today's peacenik is tomorrow's warmonger, and both sides argue it from the same standpoint. There is a humanitarian disaster going on in this country. I've got news for all of you. There is a humanitarian disaster going on right now in Kensington, Philadelphia. We have demilitarized zones essentially within our own borders. If you go to certain parts of certain cities, most of these places can't go a day without somebody getting shot to death. I don't see the kind of effort in curbing these problems that is directed towards these other countries which are supposedly in such dire need of outside assistance. I don't think I really even need to get into the fact that I am extremely skeptical of a lot of these so-called resistance movements, these so-called revolutionary movements going on in the Middle East. Most of these movements are theologically more Muslim than the tyrants that are imposing their will upon them. I have every reason to believe that the Al-Qaeda and or Mujahideen-inspired insurgents in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, in Libya, and in all of these other places are even more, let's just say, more in line with the Sharia law method of doing things than the current governments that are presiding over these countries. And let's use Saddam Hussein as an example, since everybody loves to talk about the Iraq War and all the money that was wasted there. Saddam Hussein made it legal for people to consume alcoholic beverages in Iraq. In Iraq, Christians were given the liberty to practice their religion without fear of reprisal from Islamicists. Now, this is not to say that Saddam Hussein was a good guy, far from it. I feel kind of funny talking that way because that's the exact same way that the people that are now saying no-fly zones in Libya were talking just 3 or 4 years ago. It's the way that our current political structure works is so ingeniously designed that it's hard not to think of this within terms of some perfect conspiracy because, frankly, it's almost like clockwork. Out with the old, in with the new in every respect except for policy. The policy always stays the same: more money spent, more lives lost, and more imperialism. And frankly, I don't want any part of it. I want to pursue much more profitable ventures, and I want to do it within the context of allies with none, but trading partners with all. I have nothing wrong with trading with other nations. I'm not a protectionist. By the same token, I don't like the fact that every job in this country is being outsourced and that we're essentially shooting ourselves in the foot while giving out free candy to other nations via most favored nation status, but that's another discussion for another day. Long story short, I don't support the no-fly zones. Anybody who labors under any illusion of being some kind of peace advocate should not be supporting them either. And unfortunately, that excludes most of the so-called mainline liberals. Yea, even the wacko extremist ones on truthout.org. With prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.